Chosen one, hear me well. This message has not come to you by chance. It has arrived at the perfect moment, divinely arranged to awaken something profound within you. In God's plan, nothing happens by accident, and if these words stir your spirit, it is a sign that you are being called to awareness. Take this seriously. What I'm about to share holds the power to transform your journey. Ignoring these signs will come at a cost greater than you can fathom, not only in this life but in your eternal destiny. The path of the chosen one is never easy. It was never meant to be. God has set you apart, and with that comes a responsibility unlike any other. You have likely sensed this, an inner knowing that you are different, that you cannot conform to the ways of the world. Yet with this calling come trials, tests, and moments of deep uncertainty. Many chosen ones struggle because they fail to recognize the signs God is showing them. They walk blindly, unaware that their suffering is not random, but a direct consequence of ignoring divine warnings. This is your wake-up call. The universe has aligned for you to hear this message today. It is not by chance that you are here, listening. It is not a coincidence that you have been seeking clarity, looking for confirmation, yearning for answers. God does not scream. He whispers. He nudges. He sends signs repeatedly, waiting for you to pay attention. But if you keep ignoring these messages, the consequences can be severe. When God calls and you refuse to listen, He will shake your world until you have no choice but to acknowledge His voice. Think back on your life. Have you felt an unexplained restlessness, like something is missing even when everything appears fine? Have you experienced sudden losses, betrayals, or situations that forced you to change direction? Do you sense that you are being separated from people, that you no longer fit into places you once did? These are not random events. These are divine signals, and your response to them determines everything. God's ways are not the ways of the world. He will not force you, but He will allow circumstances to push you toward His will. The pain you are experiencing, the isolation, the setbacks, they are all designed to realign you. But if you ignore these divine warnings, the cost is immense. You risk delaying your purpose, missing your blessings, and living a life that is not in alignment with your destiny. Even worse, you risk losing the spiritual protection that comes with obedience. You must understand that being chosen comes with a higher level of accountability. Others may ignore the signs and continue living as they please, but you cannot. The calling on your life is too great. God has invested too much in you. The spiritual gifts you carry, the wisdom you are meant to impart, the mission you were created for. It all depends on you recognizing and responding to God's guidance. The enemy knows this too, which is why he works tirelessly to distract and deceive you, to keep you from seeing the truth. That is why you are here at this exact moment. This message is a divine interruption in your life, a reminder that God has not given up on you, but He is watching to see what you will do next. Will you continue ignoring the signs, pretending not to hear His call? Or will you step into the truth and surrender to the path He has laid out for you? If you feel this message resonating with you, do not keep silent. Engage with it. Declare your acknowledgement in the comments below. If you are ready to align with God's will, type 777 as a sign that you are awake, aware, and listening. This is only the beginning. The signs God sends are clear, but many fail to recognize them. In this message, I will reveal to you the most critical signs that you cannot afford to ignore. These are the signs that determine whether you will walk in divine favor or struggle unnecessarily. Open your heart, quiet your mind, and prepare yourself, because what you're about to hear will change everything. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when an unshakable feeling begins to stir within them. It is subtle at first, like a whisper in the wind, a feeling that something is off. You might have everything you once thought you wanted, yet there is an emptiness that lingers. The things that used to bring you joy no longer satisfy your soul. Conversations feel hollow, routines feel monotonous, and no matter how much you try to convince yourself that everything is fine, deep down, you know it isn't. This is not mere dissatisfaction. This is divine discomfort. God is nudging you, stirring your spirit, awakening something within you that cannot be ignored. The world will try to tell you that this feeling means you need a new hobby, a new relationship, a new environment. But no worldly solution can satisfy a spiritual calling. What you are experiencing is a sign from God that you are not meant to stay where you are. You are outgrowing the space you are in, and God is urging you to move forward. God has a way of making the familiar uncomfortable when it is time for you to step into something greater. The friendships that once felt fulfilling now seem draining. The career path that once excited you now feels like a cage. The habits and mindsets that once brought you peace now feel heavy and restrictive. It is not that these things have changed, it is that you have changed. God is elevating you, and as He does, He disrupts everything that keeps you stagnant. Many chosen ones mistake this restlessness for confusion. They think something is wrong with them, that they are losing their passion, or that they need to push harder to make things work. But this is not about effort, it is about alignment. You are being called higher, and what once fit you no longer does. This discomfort is a divine signal that you must pay attention to. Look at the story of Jonah in the Bible. God called him to go to Nineveh, but Jonah resisted. He ran in the opposite direction, thinking he could escape his calling. But God would not allow him to remain in disobedience. A storm arose. Jonah was thrown into the sea, swallowed by a great fish, and spent 3 days in darkness before he surrendered to God's will. The storm was not a punishment, it was a divine intervention. It was God's way of forcing Jonah into alignment with his purpose. Many of you are in the middle of your own storm. You are restless, anxious, and unsettled. But instead of recognizing this as a divine sign, you are trying to fix it with temporary solutions. You switch jobs, change your circle, distract yourself with entertainment, or even numb the feeling with unhealthy habits. But no matter what you do, the restlessness remains. This is because God is not asking you to escape it. He is asking you to surrender to it. Spiritual restlessness is not a curse. It is a gift. It is God's way of guiding you toward your next level. But if you ignore it, the consequences are severe. Stagnation, misalignment, prolonged suffering. The more you resist, the heavier life becomes. The longer you stay in the wrong place, the more life drains from you. Some of you have been feeling this for a while. You have been sensing that you are meant for more, but fear has kept you where you are. Fear of change, fear of stepping into the unknown, fear of leaving behind what is familiar. But what you don't realize is that staying in the wrong place is far more dangerous than stepping into the unknown. You must learn to recognize the difference between a spiritual sign and a worldly distraction. The world will tell you that restlessness means you need more. More money, more success, more validation. But spiritual restlessness does not come from lack. It comes from misalignment. It is not about needing more of the world. It is about needing more of God. You might be wondering, how do I know if what I'm feeling is from God? The answer is simple. When God is trying to move you, He will disrupt your comfort. When the enemy is trying to deceive you, he will offer counterfeit peace. If you feel like something is missing despite having everything, that is God. If you feel uneasy because you are not living in full obedience, that is God. If you feel exhausted despite doing all the right things, that is God. The longer you ignore this sign, the louder it will become. God will allow discomfort to increase until you have no choice but to act. The conversations that once felt natural will start to drain you. The places you once enjoyed will begin to feel empty. The people you once relied on will start to distance themselves. This is not a coincidence. This is preparation. God is separating you for something greater, but you must be willing to move. Jonah resisted until he had no choice. Do not be like Jonah. Do not wait for a storm to force you into obedience. The moment you feel this divine discomfort, respond. Seek God. Ask Him what He is trying to reveal to you. Do not try to silence the feeling. Lean into it. The faster you recognize the sign, the sooner you can step into the next phase of your journey. Chosen one. This is your wake-up call. You cannot afford to ignore this. If you have been feeling this restlessness, if your spirit has been unsettled, if you know deep down that you are being called to more, this is your confirmation. It is time to act. Do not let fear keep you stagnant. Do not let comfort keep you trapped. God is calling you higher, and it is time to answer. There comes a time in the life of every chosen one when the world begins to feel distant. Conversations that once felt warm now seem forced. The people you used to rely on are suddenly unavailable. Places that once felt like home no longer bring you comfort. You may find yourself wondering, why do I feel so disconnected? Why do I feel like I no longer belong? The answer is simple. God isolates before elevation. This is not a coincidence. It is not random. It is divine separation. When God chooses someone for a higher calling, he removes them from the distractions, influences, and relationships that no longer serve their purpose. You are not being abandoned. You are being set apart. You are not losing people. You are shedding what can no longer go with you. This is God's way of making room for something greater. Chosen ones experience solitude in ways that others do not understand. Even your closest friends may suddenly pull away. Your family may not support you the way they once did. You may feel like an outsider in places where you were once celebrated. This can be painful, confusing, and even heartbreaking, but you must recognize it for what it is. This is God clearing the noise so that you can hear him more clearly. Some of you have been struggling with this isolation, trying to hold on to connections that God is asking you to release. You are wondering why certain friendships are fading, why certain relationships are falling apart, why the people who once stood by you now feel like strangers. But what you must understand is that when God is elevating you, he will separate you. Some people cannot go where you are going. Some connections will only hold you back. Some environments will only delay your purpose. Think of Jesus before he began his mission, before performing miracles, before gathering his disciples, before fulfilling his purpose. He was led into the wilderness for 40 days. He was alone. No crowds, no followers, no distractions, just him and God. That time of isolation was not punishment, it was preparation. In solitude, he gained the strength, wisdom, and clarity needed for the journey ahead. If even Jesus had to go through a season of separation before stepping into his destiny, why would it be any different for you? You see, God isolates before elevation because he needs to refine you. He needs to strip away what is unnecessary. He needs to break your dependence on the world so that your dependence is fully on him. Many people resist this process. They fight against it. They try to force relationships to stay. They cling to old habits, old friendships, old routines, even when they know deep down that those things no longer serve them. But fighting isolation only leads to spiritual blindness. When you resist God's separation, you cloud your vision. You block the blessings that are waiting for you on the other side. You stay stuck in cycles that were never meant for you. You waste time and energy on people and situations that are not aligned with your destiny. Chosen one, you must embrace this season of isolation. It is not meant to harm you. It is meant to strengthen you. It is meant to teach you how to stand firm in your faith without relying on external validation. It is meant to sharpen your spirit so that when the time comes for you to step into your calling, you are ready. You will know God is setting you apart when your old life no longer fits. The places you used to enjoy now feel uncomfortable. The conversations you used to engage in now seem meaningless. The people you used to resonate with now feel distant. This is not rejection. This is transformation. You are evolving, and as you do, God is making sure that nothing that is not meant for you remains in your life. Many of you are afraid of this loneliness, but you must understand that solitude is where God speaks the loudest. It is in the silence that he reveals his greatest plans for you. It is in the stillness that he strengthens you for what is coming next. Some of you have been praying for direction, but you are afraid to step into the very solitude that will give you the answers you seek. God is waiting for you to stop fighting this process. He is waiting for you to stop looking to the world for comfort and start looking to him. Until you do, you will continue to feel lost. You will continue to feel disconnected, because the truth is, you do not belong to this world. You were never meant to fit in. You were never meant to blend in. You were called to stand apart, to rise above, to walk a path that few will understand. The chosen ones of the past all went through this. Moses was set apart. Elijah was set apart. David was set apart. Before every great move of God, there was isolation. Do not mistake it for rejection. This is your preparation. The danger of ignoring this sign is that you will never reach your full potential. If you keep trying to stay connected to the wrong people, the wrong environments, the wrong influences, you will dilute your power. You will lose sight of your purpose. You will waste your anointing on things that do not deserve it. The longer you fight this, the longer you delay what God has for you. Some of you are on the verge of a breakthrough, but you are afraid to let go of what God is trying to remove. You feel alone, but this loneliness is not meant to break you. It is meant to build you. It is meant to mold you into the person you are destined to be. The sooner you accept it, the sooner you will see the doors that God is opening for you. Chosen one, hear me clearly. Do not resist this separation. Do not fight against what God is doing. Let go of what is leaving. Release what no longer fits. Trust that this isolation is not for your harm, but for your elevation. What is coming is greater than what is leaving, but you will never step into it if you keep trying to hold on to what was. This is your moment of transformation. This is your season of preparation. Embrace it, because once it is complete, you will emerge stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your divine calling than ever before. There is a reason why your path has been filled with struggles, why you have faced opposition at every turn, and why it feels like the world is working against you. The truth is, you are not just an ordinary person. You are a chosen one, handpicked by God for a divine purpose. And because of that, you are a threat to the enemy. The enemy does not attack what does not matter. It only wages war against what it fears. Many of you have been experiencing hardships that seem unfair. Sudden losses, unexpected betrayals, deep moments of doubt, and overwhelming fear. You find yourself questioning why everything feels so heavy, why every step forward is met with resistance. These are not coincidences. These are spiritual attacks designed to break you before you can step into the fullness of your calling. Spiritual attacks come in many forms, but they all have one goal: to weaken your faith and separate you from your divine path. Some of you may feel an unshakable doubt creeping into your mind, making you question whether you are truly chosen. Others may experience an overwhelming fear that paralyzes them, preventing them from moving forward. Some of you may face financial losses, unexpected health issues, or betrayals from those closest to you. The enemy will use anything and anyone to try to break your spirit. You must understand that this is not just bad luck. This is warfare. The moment you begin to walk in alignment with God's will, the enemy sees you as a threat. It does not want you to fulfill your purpose. It does not want you to rise. So, it attacks in the hopes that you will give up before you even begin. Look at Job. He was a righteous man, favored by God, and yet he suffered tremendous losses. His wealth, his health, even his family. Everything was stripped away from him. But why? Because the enemy wanted to test his faith. The enemy believed that if Job suffered enough, he would turn away from God. But what the enemy failed to understand was that true faith cannot be broken. Job did not curse God. He did not turn away. And in the end, he was restored beyond what he had lost. His trials were not for his destruction, but for his elevation. You too are being tested. Your trials are not meant to break you. They are meant to prove your strength. But you must be prepared. This is spiritual warfare, and you cannot fight a spiritual battle with a worldly mindset. You must equip yourself with the armor of God. Prayer is your weapon. When the attacks intensify, you must pray with authority. You must speak life over yourself, over your destiny, over everything that belongs to you. You must declare victory before you see it. Fasting is your discipline. When Jesus was tempted in the wilderness, he fasted. He denied the flesh so that he could strengthen his spirit. Fasting is not just about abstaining from food. It is about silencing distractions and making room for divine instruction. It is about deepening your connection with God so that you can hear his voice above the noise of the enemy. Discernment is your protection. Not every struggle is random, and not every loss is by accident. The enemy is strategic, and you must be too. You must be able to recognize when an attack is happening so that you can respond with wisdom. Some of you have been allowing people into your lives who were sent to destroy you. Some of you have been opening doors that should have remained shut. Discernment will reveal the traps before you step into them. Ignoring the battle does not make it go away. Some of you are trying to pretend that what you are experiencing is just a phase, just a streak of bad luck, just an unfortunate season. But that is exactly what the enemy wants. Because if you do not acknowledge the battle, you will never fight back. And if you do not fight back, you make yourself vulnerable. When you ignore spiritual attacks, you allow deception to take root. The enemy will whisper lies into your mind, convincing you that you are not chosen, that your prayers are not working, that your struggles are proof that God has abandoned you. These lies will take hold if you do not stand in your authority. Chosen one, you must understand this truth. The attacks are proof of your calling. The enemy would not be fighting you if you were not a threat. The intensity of your battles is a sign of how powerful you truly are. If you were insignificant, there would be no opposition. But because you are destined for greatness, the resistance is greater. This is not the time to break. This is not the time to retreat. This is the time to stand firm. The attacks may come, but they will not succeed. The enemy may try to shake you, but you will not fall, because you are not alone in this battle. God is with you. The angels are fighting on your behalf. And if you refuse to give up, you will emerge victorious. Some of you are on the edge of a breakthrough, but the enemy is trying to convince you otherwise. It is making the battle feel heavier than ever, because it knows you are about to step into something great. Do not let the pressure break you. Do not let the pain deceive you. What you are facing right now is not the end. It is the transition. It is the process that comes before the promise. So rise up, chosen one. Recognize the attack for what it is. Strengthen yourself with prayer, fasting, and discernment. Do not let the enemy trick you into believing that you are powerless. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a warrior in the kingdom of God. And no matter how fierce the battle, victory is already yours. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when God begins to pull them towards something bigger, something beyond themselves. This is the divine assignment, the very purpose for which you were created. You feel it deep within your spirit, like a voice that will not be silenced, a feeling that will not go away. Yet despite this undeniable calling, many resist. Resistance to the call of God is not new. It is not uncommon. Even the greatest figures in history, those chosen to lead and transform the world, have felt the same hesitation, the same fear. You are not alone in this struggle. But ignoring this call does not make it disappear. Running from it does not erase it. If anything, it only makes life harder, because when you are called by God, there is no peace outside of obedience. Many of you have been experiencing an inner turmoil that you cannot explain. No matter how much you try to focus on other things, this persistent pull remains. You have tried to silence it with distractions, with worldly ambitions, with temporary pleasures, but nothing fills the void. That is because you are not meant for an ordinary life. You are not meant to blend in with the crowd. You are called for something greater, and until you step into that purpose, nothing else will satisfy you. So why do so many resist? Why do chosen ones hesitate when the divine call is so clear? There are many reasons, but the most common are fear, feelings of unworthiness, and comfort in the familiar. Fear is one of the biggest obstacles. When God calls you, He often calls you into the unknown. He asks you to step outside of what is safe, outside of what is predictable, and that terrifies many. You wonder if you are capable, if you are strong enough, if you will fail. The weight of responsibility feels overwhelming, so you shrink back instead of rising up. Then there is the feeling of unworthiness. Many chosen ones struggle to believe that God would use them. You look at your past mistakes, your weaknesses, your shortcomings, and you convince yourself that you are not qualified. You think, surely God would choose someone else, someone holier, someone more prepared. But that is a lie. God does not call the qualified, He qualifies the called. He sees what you cannot see in yourself. He sees beyond your flaws and into the greatness He placed within you. And then there is comfort. Some resist because they do not want to leave the familiar. They do not want to let go of the life they have built, the people they are surrounded by, the plans they have made. Answering the call of God often requires sacrifice. It requires walking away from things that no longer serve you. It requires stepping into a role that may be uncomfortable at first. And for many, that is too much to ask. But what you must understand is that ignoring the call will not stop it from coming. God is persistent. He does not give up on those He has chosen. And if you do not listen the first time, He will keep calling. If you ignore the signs, He will send more. But the more you resist, the harder life becomes. The more you fight against your purpose, the more frustration you will experience because you are trying to live a life that is not meant for you. Some of you have already seen the signs. You have been given unusual opportunities that seem too perfectly timed to be coincidences. Doors have opened in areas you never considered before. Strangers have spoken words into your life that confirmed what you already felt in your spirit. You have had dreams, visions, moments of deep knowing that you are meant for something bigger. These are not accidents. These are divine signs, and they are trying to get your attention. Look at Moses. He was chosen by God to lead an entire nation, yet he resisted. When God appeared to him in the burning bush, he did not immediately accept the call. Instead, he gave excuses. He told God he was not a good speaker, that he was not the right person, that the people would not listen to him. He tried to convince God that he was not capable. But God does not make mistakes. He did not choose Moses by accident. And despite Moses' resistance, God did not allow him to escape his destiny. In the end, Moses accepted the call and became one of the greatest leaders in history. You may be running now, but how long will you keep running? How long will you resist what you know deep down is meant for you? The longer you wait, the more restless you will become. The more you ignore the signs, the more misaligned your life will feel. You will keep trying to fill the emptiness with things that do not satisfy. You will keep feeling frustrated, lost, and disconnected because your spirit knows that you are not where you are supposed to be. Resisting God's call is dangerous. It does not just affect you, it affects everyone connected to you. Your purpose is bigger than you. Your calling is not just about your own life. There are people who are waiting for you to step into your destiny. There are lives that will be changed because of your obedience. When you resist, you delay, not only your blessings, but the blessings of others. Some of you are afraid that saying yes to God will cost you everything. But what if resisting Him costs you more? What if the life you are clinging to is far less than what God has in store for you? What if everything you have been praying for, everything you have been searching for, is on the other side of your obedience? Chosen one, it is time. No more running, no more resisting, no more doubting yourself. The call has come, and it will not stop until you answer. God does not choose by mistake. He does not make errors. He sees something in you that you may not see in yourself, and He is ready to use you in ways beyond what you can imagine. The only question is, will you answer or will you continue to resist until life forces you into alignment? Because one thing is certain, God's plan will not change. The only thing that will change is how much struggle you go through before you accept it. The choice is yours. There are moments in life when everything seems to fall apart all at once. The relationships you thought were unshakable suddenly crumble. The job or career you invested years into is stripped away. The security you relied on vanishes in an instant. You are left standing in the wreckage, confused, hurt, and questioning why God would allow such destruction. It feels as if your entire world is being dismantled piece by piece, and yet what seems like destruction is often divine redirection. When God has a higher calling on your life, He will remove everything that no longer serves your purpose. He will take away distractions, break toxic attachments, and block paths that lead to dead ends. This is not punishment. This is preparation. You may not understand it now, but every loss is making room for something greater. At first, it feels like suffering. You pray for things to return to the way they were. You fight to hold on to what God is trying to remove. But in time, you will see that what was taken away was never meant to stay. God's ways are higher than our ways. His vision is far greater than ours. He sees the dangers we cannot see. He knows when a relationship will hinder our destiny, when a job will keep us from our mission, when a place will limit our growth. And because He loves you, He will remove what is no longer aligned with His plan. Many struggle to differentiate between divine loss and punishment. When hardships come, people often assume they are being punished for something they did wrong. But God does not operate like that. He does not strip things away out of cruelty or anger. He is a refining fire, burning away the impurities so that the gold within you can shine. The pain you feel is not a sign of His absence. It is proof that He is at work in your life. Look at Joseph. He was given a vision of greatness, yet his journey was filled with unimaginable losses. His own brothers betrayed him, selling him into slavery. He was falsely accused and thrown into prison. For years, it seemed as though his life was only moving in the wrong direction. But in reality, every loss was positioning him for his destiny. The betrayal led him to Egypt. The prison prepared him for the palace. What seemed like setbacks were, in fact, divine setups. And when the time was right, Joseph was elevated to a position of power that fulfilled the very dream God had given him. Your losses are not random. They are not meaningless. They are God's way of shifting you toward the future He has planned. But the problem is that many people fight the process. They cling to what is gone, refusing to move forward. They try to restore relationships that God has ended. They attempt to reopen doors that God has closed. And in doing so, they delay the very blessings meant for them. If you're experiencing forced redirections, know this: God is not taking from you. He is making space for what is truly meant for you. But you must be willing to let go. You must trust that the losses are not meant to break you, but to build you. The past is over. The old season has ended. Clinging to what was will only keep you from stepping into what will be. God is calling you forward. Will you trust Him, or will you delay His plan by holding on to what He has already removed? The choice is yours. There comes a time in the journey of every chosen one when the world no longer feels the same. The things that once blended into the background now stand out with striking clarity. You begin to sense what others do not. You walk into a room and feel the energy shift before anyone speaks. You hear words, but beyond them, you discern the spirit behind them. You no longer take things at face value because something deep within you, something God-given, whispers the truth. This is the sharpening of your spiritual senses. When you are chosen by God, He does not leave you defenseless in a world filled with deception. He heightens your awareness, increases your discernment, and fine-tunes your ability to perceive what lies beneath the surface. This is why you may feel different from those around you. While they move through life unaware, you sense the undercurrents of spiritual forces at play. You feel when something is not right, even if there is no logical explanation for it. This is not your imagination. This is divine discernment. Many chosen ones experience this as part of their spiritual awakening. The things they once tolerated suddenly feel unbearable. The conversations they used to engage in now seem shallow or deceptive. They can no longer ignore the feeling that something is off, even when everyone else is blind to it. This is why you may feel disconnected from people you once felt close to. It is not that you have changed randomly. It is that your spirit is now operating on a higher level. You are perceiving beyond the natural realm. But why does God do this? Why does He heighten the senses of His chosen ones? Because He is preparing you for something greater. He is placing you in a position where you cannot be easily deceived. The enemy thrives on confusion, manipulation, and half-truths. He wraps lies in beautiful packages, hoping you will accept them without question. But when you have discernment, you can see past the illusion. You can recognize deception before it takes root. You can test the spirit behind every message, every opportunity, and every relationship. Discerning truth from deception is one of the most crucial skills a chosen one must develop. The Bible warns that in the last days, even the elect will be deceived if they are not careful. This is why God sharpens your senses. He does not want you to be led astray by false teachings, by misleading prophets, or by seemingly good opportunities that are actually traps. He wants you to see with spiritual eyes, not just human understanding. Daniel is a powerful example of this gift. In a time when kings and rulers sought worldly wisdom, Daniel was given divine understanding. He could interpret dreams, see beyond the surface, and receive direct revelations from God. He was not fooled by the deception surrounding him, and because of his discernment, he was elevated to a position of great influence. But Daniel's gift did not come without challenges. His wisdom made him a target. His ability to see truth threatened those who thrived on lies. This is the cost of discernment. It sets you apart, and not everyone will appreciate it. The warning here is clear. Ignoring your heightened sensitivity will lead to deception and manipulation. If you continue to suppress the warnings in your spirit, if you silence the voice of discernment, you will walk into traps meant to derail your purpose. Many chosen ones, in an attempt to fit in or avoid confrontation, ignore their intuition. They convince themselves that they are overreacting, that they are imagining things. that they should just go along with what others are doing. But this is dangerous. The more you ignore discernment, the weaker it becomes. God is speaking to you. He is revealing things to you for a reason. Do not dismiss what you sense simply because others do not see it. Your ability to perceive beyond the natural is not a burden, it is a gift. And if you learn to trust it, it will protect you, guide you, and keep you aligned with God's will. But if you ignore it, you open the door to deception. You allow the enemy to manipulate you, to blind you to truth, and to lead you away from your purpose. Chosen one, it is time to embrace the gift of discernment. Stop doubting what God has placed within you. Trust the warnings in your spirit, test everything, and never allow the fear of standing alone to make you compromise the truth. Your heightened sensitivity is not a flaw. It is a divine tool. Use it wisely. There is a cost to ignoring the signs that God places before you. He does not call without reason, and he does not send signals without purpose. When he disrupts your life, isolates you, or allows trials to come, he is not punishing you. He is guiding you. But what happens when you refuse to listen? What happens when you silence his voice, dismiss his warnings, and continue walking the path of comfort rather than the path of purpose? The answer is simple. You risk missing your divine assignment. One of the greatest tragedies in life is not failure, but success in things that do not matter. Many people spend their entire lives chasing after things God never intended for them. Relationships, careers, lifestyles that bring momentary satisfaction but eternal emptiness. They ignore the unease in their spirit, the nudges pushing them towards something greater, and instead choose the illusion of security. But what they do not realize is that rejecting divine direction comes with consequences. When you resist the path God has laid out for you, you will experience an increasing sense of frustration. Nothing will feel fulfilling. No matter how much you achieve, a void will remain. This is not by accident. This is God's way of reminding you that you are out of alignment. Beyond inner turmoil, ignoring God's voice leads to unnecessary suffering. The doors that were meant to open for you remain shut. The blessings that were waiting for you are delayed. You face battles you were never meant to fight and obstacles that were never part of your original path. It is not that God wishes harm upon you. It is that you have stepped away from his divine covering. When you reject your calling, you expose yourself to unnecessary hardships. Even worse, you risk losing divine favor. God's favor is what separates the chosen ones from the rest. It is the unseen force that accelerates progress, opens impossible doors, and brings supernatural provision. But favor is tied to obedience. When you choose to walk away from the direction God is pulling you, that favor begins to fade. You may still experience worldly success, but without divine backing, it is empty. You will constantly feel like something is missing because, without God's presence, even the greatest achievements feel hollow. If you have been ignoring these signs, now is the time to realign. The good news is that God's mercy is abundant. He does not abandon his chosen ones even when they resist him. But you must take action. The first step is repentance, not just in words but in heart and action. Acknowledge where you have been resistant, where you have chosen comfort over calling, and ask God to redirect your steps. The second step is obedience. When God speaks, respond. When he nudges, move. When he closes a door, stop trying to force it open. This is your wake-up call. The fact that you are hearing this message is no coincidence. God is speaking directly to you, urging you to step into your purpose before it is too late. Do not allow fear, doubt, or complacency to rob you of your destiny. The time to act is now. If this message spoke to you, if you recognize the signs in your own life, take a step of faith. Comment 1111 as a declaration that you are ready to step into your calling. This is not just another moment. It is a divine appointment. Will you answer?